Today on the Operators Podcast, we spoke to Heather Morell, who is the co-founder of a new pediatric therapy clinic that she is founding. She's hoping to do things a little differently, and I asked her a lot of questions about it on this show, so I hope you enjoy. What's the journey from kind of educational background to, I want to get into healthcare?
Okay.
You can go.
That was the question. Okay, sorry. Um, so I've spent the majority of my career helping companies. Started in Salesforce and within sales operations, eventually leading global operations and strategy teams across a bunch of different industries. So over time, what I realize is I'm wired to solve problems and build systems and help teams function better together. So Neurobloom came from something much more purposeful and meaningful to me. I kept seeing the same heartbreaking reality over and over. Families diagnosed and then waiting 6 to 18 months, sometimes longer, for autism services during the most critical developmental years of a child's life. And the families waiting the longest were usually the ones on Medicaid, which is, again, heartbreaking. So at some point I realized I didn't want to help companies run better anymore. I mean, it's great. I'm great at it. I love doing it. I want to build something that actually changes lives. And that's how I started down the Neurobloom path.
So before we talk about Neurobloom, let's talk about running companies and operations, which is something I'm kind of interested in as well. I think that I have like some German heritage, and I think it like is in my DNA that I do want things to run efficiently, and I get really irritated when I see stuff that isn't working properly. I was working
Sure.
for a company once, and there was this schedule, and it made no sense. And I remember I walked into the office and I said, move this here, move this here, move this here, done. And the woman was like, and she's like, okay, she fixed it.
You
But,
must know what you're doing.
well, maybe. But I don't have as colorful a resume as you, of course. But what do you do when you're in an operations role to make something run efficiently?
Yeah. Yeah. So I am the person solving problems, essentially. Every role I've ever had somehow turned into, can Heather figure this out? I think naturally I gravitate toward messy situations where
Hmm.
people are overwhelmed and systems aren't working. And what's funny, operations is not always glamorous. It's usually the stuff that nobody else wants to touch. Broken processes, frustrated teams, communication gaps. I could go on and on and on. But I genuinely love taking chaos and turning that into something scalable and sustainable. And
Hmm.
I think that's, I also have like massive ADHD, which I need to have 10 things going on at all times to keep my brain functioning.
Hmm.
So that kind of helps with those things.
And you also were at MIT as well.
So I participated in a program for chief operations officer program through MIT.
Hmm.
Yes. So I didn't go to MIT, but I did participate in this
In this
program, and
program.
it was great. Yeah,
What did you
it's
learn
great.
at the program?
Oh my God, I learned that I have a lot more to learn. Um, I knew a lot of things about operationally running a business. What I didn't know I needed to know was the entire system. How do you start with a product, move that through the system to get to the operational piece of it? So I really learned a lot about what happens before the business needs to be run by somebody like me. How do we start the business? How do we get a product, a concept from stage A to C to D through that to where we need it to go to sell, things like that. So I learned a lot um, about processes and structure, but I also learned a lot from other people in the cohort with me about the different experiences that they've been through in their careers. I mean, they're from all over the world. So we learned lots and lots of things from lots of people, but I learned that I have a lot more to learn.
Learn. They need to always learn.
I'm sorry.
So, okay, so you have this operations background. You're in telecommunications. You're in a couple other like pharma a little bit. And at what point do you decide that you want to pivot and get into the startup world with Neurobloom?
Yeah. So it became um it started over dinner with a friend of mine who currently works in an ABA clinic. And we talked about, I just said, how's work going? And she was very frustrated with the way things were working in her clinic. They had gone from being a patient forward, very flexible type organization to a very structured, rigid block scheduling kind of thing.
Mhm.
And what we determined is that these kids were not getting the services not only that they needed, but that they were paying for. And it was because it didn't fit into the time blocks that this company had set up. And it infuriated me. And
Yeah.
I don't have autistic kids. I know some and I love them. I don't have them myself, but I have a place in my heart for children and animals. And if the rest of you are on your own, but children and animals, something happens, watch out. And this really, the more we talked about it, I said to her, well, what would you do different? And she said, I would open my own clinic and I would do XYZ. And I said, why don't we do that? And she said, well, I don't know anything about starting a business. And I was like, oh, you can help with that. So
Yeah.
that's how we got here. It got from like most things in my life, I get motivated by some sort of anger, frustration. So
Is she
that's
your
where I am.
co-founder?
She is.
Ah, okay, gotcha. So then, what is NeuroBloom Kids gonna be as a startup?
Yeah. So NeuroBloom is being built as a whole child autism therapy organization focused on early intervention and access. And our vision is to create the scalable network of pediatric autism centers that provide all the integrated services that are needed under one roof. So the ABA, speech, occupational therapy, diagnostics, parent support, behavioral health, and then eventually educational advocacy. I think the biggest differentiator is that we're intentionally designing this model to support Medicaid families because those are the kids often waiting the longest for care.
Yeah.
We're still, yeah.
I know that I spoke to someone in the past who was an operations manager at a clinic for autism as well. And they said that 80% of their patients were on Medicaid. So, what does that mean for those who don't know to have like patients on Medicaid, especially children whose parents are on
Sure.
Medicaid?
So I would like to say that that is uncommon. The 80% is on Medicaid. It's usually the flop, right? We hope to have 80% and we're not going to call them patients, we're going to call them clients in our clinic, but um, we hope to have 80% on Medicaid and the 20% on private insurance or self-pay, private pay, those kind of things. But what that means is majority of your revenue comes from Medicaid as opposed to these other streams. It also means you get sometimes half, sometimes less. You're getting what the government has decided this service is worth. And that is why a lot of these organizations tend to lean toward, private pay and they only take, usually it's 10% Medicaid because they can then say, yes, I have Medicaid, I take Medicaid, but the majority of their clientele is private pay or private insurance, which pays quite a bit more. Um, we hope to flip that and become it. And we go back to the wait list and the waiting periods. It just makes those children um, that much more vulnerable in that amount of time because again, in you get diagnosed between 18 months to 4 years old and if you have to wait another 18 months or 24 months for services, those are critical developmental years. And just because a child's on Medicaid, which has nothing to do with that child, their services aren't being extended to them, and that it's just not right. And so that's what our services are. Our premise of NeuroBloom was to service the underserved community. And I'm not just saying those on Medicaid, it's those that are on wait lists. If you're on a wait list for any other reason, there we want you. We want to see you. We want to expand and fill in those gaps.
So it's funny, actually. I was just looking at your. So the NeuroBloom was founded like 6 months ago, correct?
Yeah,
I
technically, yes. It's been going on for
technically,
about a year and a half, but
because that's
technically,
actually
yes, a
when
year.
Caesar Health was founded. I think we have the
Oh,
same
really?
birthday. Yeah, I think our
Well,
startups are
that's
the same
awesome.
age.
That's great.
And just like NeuroBloom, I know Caesar was something we were thinking about for a long time. But
Yeah.
what do you have so far? Like, what's the current state of the project? Like, you're going to build like a physical location, I assume, or is it going to all be
Yes.
telehealth? Like, so what's
Nope.
kind of the roadmap?
Yeah. So we've we've gotten we're all the way. We're right now we're at the investor stage. We're in conversations with potential investors. We're trying to find some money to get this thing going. We've finally found a physical location that is so perfect. We have a back, I don't know, last summer or so, we had another organization, franchise organization that was uh, for sale in the area, and it's a sensory gym, and
Mhm.
it's made specifically for autistic kids and their families, where they can come and it was built from uh, you know, a parent being asked to leave with their child at a regular, gym or playground or something like that because their autistic child or children weren't behaving the way that they thought normal children should be acting or children should be acting. So I love the mission. So we're going to include a sensory gym as well. So we'll have these therapeutic services that we've all talked about, the medical health welfare side of it, but then we'll also have this fun gym where you can come and play. We can have birthday parties. We can do different things like that. Um, so we've gone through all of those things to get all of that stuff set up. We've got all permits. We've got all of those things. We just, again, identified our physical location. It's great for exactly the right space for what we need. It's built out so far like a medical facility, so we can use it just that way. Um, and our next steps are obviously getting into that space and getting our customers, clients up and running. We've started a couple of small social media campaigns to gain a level of interest in the community. We know this every time we talk to somebody, they say, "Oh, we need that. We love that." Right. So I need you to sign up. Let me know so that I can, when I go to investors, I can say, I already have X number of families ready to come support us. We also have people that are already doing this job in other places that have committed to come working with us. So we will bring the best of the best talent. And then with that, there will be new clients that will join them. So we're hoping for those kind of things. The next step, after physical location is we want to start a nonprofit called NeuroBloom Works, which is hopefully going to be up on our website, which we will take because the pediatric uh, autism clinics typically stop at like 10 years old. We're going to go to 18, but then what happens to these young adults after 18? So NeuroBloom Works will help get not only these clients ready for the workforce, but we also plan to train the workforce in our community on how to work with and um, cohabitate with people of the neurodivergent community. So it's hopefully it's a give back to both sides.
And how much staff are you going to have to get? I feel like the hardest thing about running a clinic is kind of the back end when it comes to like the insurance, getting revenue cycle management and stuff.
Yeah. So my hope is because again I'm in operations and I'm a big fan of automation and technology and even AI at this point. My hope is that we can use a lot of that um, to keep our back end running as lean as possible with people so that I can have more people with families and kids within the clinic. Um,
Yeah. It's that, and by the way, that's the dream of Caesar. Like if you can
Yeah,
get a clinic to be so efficient and so automated that you can provide that cost savings to the
sure.
patient.
Well,
That's
that's the
kind of
thing.
the dream.
If you stopped operating like it was a software company or stopped operating like it was a healthcare facility and started operating like you're a software company or, some other automated type of structure, we could get there. It's just, I think that most people uh, in the healthcare field have a healthcare mindset and they know this is the way we do it and that's the way we've always done it. And I know this software from using it. And so we're just going to go with that because it's the same old. And when you come in with a fresh set of eyes and a new perspective, you can really make a difference. And that's what we're hoping to do.
Yeah, of course. And it's true. Like a lot of our clinics that we are working with on Caesar, they're a lot younger doctors that are operating it. There's sort of this older kind of baby boomer generation. They're very opposed to technology. They actually only switched to electronic medical records because the US government forced them to. If they had it their way, they'd still be using paper.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And I always give this analogy. I think it's kind of interesting where if you went to Blue Cross or United and said, I have an AI tool that will increase your denials by 30%, do you think they'd go, I don't know. I'm going to wait to see if the technology gets better. It's not right. My dog's sick. I can't today, maybe. Whereas if I went to a clinic and said, hey, I have an AI tool that's going to increase your approvals, your authorization by 30, they'd probably say no, which is pretty crazy. But
I'd say sign me up. Let me see it. Let's do it. That's where I'm at.
yeah, awesome. So what's the name of the city this is going to be in? I don't know how
Raleigh.
should I
The
pronounce it. It's
Raleigh,
called
Raleigh,
Raleigh.
North Carolina.
It's spelled
Yeah,
with like a
Raleigh, North
GH.
Carolina. Yes, it
Uh,
is. Raleigh. Yep.
Raleigh. And what's Raleigh like? Like what is the city that this clinic is getting developed in?
Yeah, so Raleigh is one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. It's where the Research Triangle Park is. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, we had a big boom of technology, medical device companies like Cisco is here, Lenovo is here, IBM, lots and lots of big companies showed up here. So that brought a lot of people really quickly. So the infrastructure of Raleigh was built really fast. A lot
Hmm.
of housing, schools, different, they had to really rethink a lot of things around here. So where we are today is because of all that, there are families, a lot more families, and those people who were here, myself included, right? We're here 30 years ago building this stuff out, have had children who are now having children. And, we've gone from in 2023, 1 in 36 kids to now in 2025, 1 in 31 kids is diagnosed with autism. So the more families and the more children that are popping up, the more need for this kind of service. And Raleigh, where we are specifically, is in the Wake Forest area, which is like northeast Raleigh area. It's very suburban area, lots of families, lots of young kids. And so we thought, I mean, I live in this area, we live in this area anyway, but this is a great area to come into the community and say like, hey, we know your kids and we want to be part of that community and help and that kind of thing. So this is a perfect place for it just because of the way it's just sort of bloomed and popped up over the last couple of decades.
No pun intended.
No pun intended.
Um, when it comes to Medicaid, I know there's a lot of talks about like maybe in the future there'll be cuts to Medicaid potentially. Like what would happen if there were like cuts to Medicaid, especially around like pediatrics,
Yeah.
mental health pediatrics?
So a lot of people say that, but if I was afraid of every what if or what, this could happen, what if that happens, then I don't know where I would be. So I'm not one of those people that's afraid. I'm gonna go right for it. But I would say this that um, we would pivot, we would become more efficient, however we had to, but I can promise you that those children would continue to get the services that they need one way or another. I would also probably become a very big advocate and lobby in my government buildings on a regular basis, whatever that means. And um, I've done that even before this NeuroBloom started. Like, I mean, children need what they need, and they've already made some really significant cuts.
Mhm.
Um, but what would happen as far as a family is concerned? Nothing. As far as I'm concerned, we pivot on the back end and use structure, strategy, technology, systems, however we have to keep things running.
I've had a lot of guests on the show, and I've asked some of them about what their opinion is on like Medicaid and stuff and Medicare. And from it's interesting because a lot of them say that it can't really ever be removed. It could morph into something else, but it would be like devastating to cut it. It would be too much pain.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they couldn't. I mean, it would, I don't, I definitely see changes happening. I don't know that I see them as negatively as some people do. In our current political climate, I think we've seen the worst of that part of it. I think over the next couple of years, we might be just sort of treading water so we can get to another election, and hopefully something turns around where we remember that the children of this country are our future and that we need to support them from the day they're born until they're a way to be able to do it on their own.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think we're past the worst part of it right now.
So in the future, clinics there, nice physical location, everything's great, back end, AI automation, robust admin team. What kind of services will you offer to children in the community?
So um, we will have every therapeutic service that they would need. So the ABA piece of it, which means they would work with a behavior tech on a daily basis, or they would have physical therapy, occupational therapy, and that means, from learning to load the dishwasher to loading a washer and dryer, cleaning out the refrigerator, making a bed, just things like that they need to know. Um, what we have in the center of our clinic that I've not seen in any other clinic that I've toured is what we're calling a library space, and
Mhm.
trees and books and quiet space, but it's like the center of the center. So it's a lounge area where I would love, when I walk through there every day, that I just see kids hanging out, because I feel like one of the pieces that we miss out on in some of these other clinics is that we keep these children separated for their different therapeutic needs. When I think a huge part of the neurodivergent community could benefit from interacting socially with other people, whether they're other neurodivergent people or not. But so to have that, so we all the clinical services, plus the support for families. I think there's a huge gap in the support for families, just in um, having a conversation, or if I have an autistic child and I have a neuro normal child, and they have to go to two different places. That seems really hard and hectic. So we want to figure out a way where we can support that parent to say, okay, you're coming here anyway. How can we support you by, is it 4 hours of preschool or 4 hours of daycare, childcare, whatever it is for your other child, other children? Can we do that? Um, Plus, then we've talked about too the fun aspect of it. We're going to have this gym where not only our clients, but the community at whole can come out and really um, use the space and all that. So my ideal is that NeuroBloom becomes the center of most of these families' universe. They want to be there. They want to come every day. They want to come on the weekends. They want to have their birthday party there. They want to, when we have a holiday party at the end of the year, we want them to come. And I want this to be the center of their family.
Yeah. Awesome. I don't like to run these podcasts too long. Like, is there anything else you
No,
think
no,
it's
no.
worth chatting about?
Nope, I don't think so.
We've
I
covered
think that's
everything.
great.
Okay.
I really do appreciate you giving me even just a little bit of like any kind of airtime because, like I'm trying to get out there and get people just to know what's going on. So I appreciate this. Thank you.